Happy Hour Conversations. My name is Jade Somerville.
And I'm Deanna Parker.
And this is Happy Hour Conversations. First of all, we do want to apologize about episode 2 not being out last week. We actually filmed for episode 2, but we wanted to take a step back, interview some pastors. So we interviewed 3 pastors between the ages of 26 to 62 to get more information on church and the millennials and their standpoint on why millennials aren't going to church. So we actually have a little bit more knowledge that we'll be able to share with you in episode 2.
If you do choose to partake in any alcohol consumptions, please do it responsibly.
Please drink responsibly.
So our topic for today is the church and the millennials.
We had so much that we wanted to talk about with the church and the millennials that we had to break it up. This is episode 2, part 1, and part 2 will follow.
Jay, go ahead and break down what a millennial really is for everybody.
If you are a millennial, you were born between the years of 1981 and 1991. Just because you weren't born in between those years does not exclude you from the conversation that we're having about the church and the millennials. If you have any input as we get into our topic, be sure and reach out to us on Facebook or you can inbox us on Instagram. We want to hear your thoughts. I actually started researching the topic, the church and the millennials, and I came across the article, and one of the things in the article that stood out to me was that 59% of millennials raised in a church have dropped out. Being that we were raised in a church, how do you feel about that?
Ooh, 59% have dropped out. I mean, I can see that. I really can. And honestly, I'm not going to lie. I mean, I haven't dropped completely out of church, but you know, I'm guilty of not attending church every Sunday. And I think what it is because, you know, when you're 17, when you're 18 and younger, your parents are making you go to church, you know. Ultimately, you know, you get up every Sunday and they're going to make you go to church.
Didn't have an option.
You really didn't have an option. So now that we graduated high school and at 17 and 18 years old and, you know, we're kind of on our own now, we have to make our own decisions to go to church, even if it is going off to college. You know, a lot of kids go to college outside of state, outside of their hometowns and things like that. So we have to make sure that we exercise our right to go to church, and we have to be self-disciplined because I know that's the number one thing for me. It's not that, I mean, I knew in the back of my head when Sunday came, I should be getting up. When my alarm went off, I knew that I should be getting up and going to church. But what I do is I just lay in the bed, you know, make excuses for myself, take another nap, I overslept type of thing. And I know that's not really the case, you know. I have to be more self-disciplined like my mom made me growing up by attending church.
Like, it didn't matter if you went to a party on Saturday, whatever, you were going to church.
And a lot of the old school parents know that. You know, you got time to kick it on the weekend, you got time to get your tails up and go to church. But for me, I mean, I just haven't. I've slacked a lot, and I just, you know, I'm guilty of it. I know it's a lot of y'all out there too that's like that as well. You know, I admit it.
And I think for me, it's finding the church that I actually feel comfortable at. Because for me, it's that one time I go, depending on that feeling I get, it's going to base it if I go back or not.
Yeah, you're right. You
and at that point, I'm like, I might as well just go home and go to church. You know, versus going to another church, trying to find another church that's local. Because, you know, an hour is kind of far to drive.
You're right.
You know, to go to church every Sunday. Not saying that I can't do it, you know, but
I will drive an hour if I know that I'm going to be going to a church that has a lot of fulfillment to it. You know, if I'm being fed properly by the word that Sunday morning.
So if you are a millennial and you were raised in a church and you haven't been going to church, let us know why you aren't going. Like, we want to
Let
hear
us know some of the reasons why you don't attend church. And I'm going to go ahead and say it, Jay. I honestly feel like the millennials our age don't attend church because they don't really believe in God anymore or never have.
That's real deep. I wonder why that is, though. Like, why you don't believe.
I think social media plays a part in it. You know,
right.
It could look like going to church or attending church is not the cool thing to do, which I disagree. Going to church is a very cool thing to do, you know, hearing the word of the Lord and becoming a better person and having a better spirit about things. And keep in mind, I mean, I'm not going back on the fact that, you know, you have some people who just don't choose to attend church because the people in church, you know, a lot of people say some of the biggest critics sit right in church.
But that's true. That is true.
It's true. It's true. It's true. I know you're going to have that in every church home, no matter what culture you're a part of.
But I think that just goes a part of a person and how that person is. So, I mean, just overlook that person and go on about what it is. But you don't want to feel that when you go to church. I get it.
Right.
But you do.
It's a lot of people, a lot of our younger generation that's not believing in church, and their parents, being millennials, don't make them go to church. They didn't go to church. They don't see the meaning of going to church. They didn't get anything from it. So why would I make my child go to church? It's kind of like their thoughts on things. I mean, I wish that it could be different. I wish that they would have had a different experience. But a lot of times it's not like that. A lot of times, you know, as when you're a child, you know, you see your mom or your father praying to God, and things not changing. You know, some kids get discouraged by that, and they.
But you also have to put forth. You have to believe. First of all, you have to have faith. But you can't expect anything to fall in your lap. You can't base your life on the next person's life. And I feel as a millennial, I feel like we are a very powerful part of the church.
We are. And I feel that the older generation isn't really more receptive of our generation and receptive of change.
Right.
It's their way or the highway, you know, a lot of times. And
in order for the church to grow, you have to accept change. The older generation has to accept change. They have to accept what the millennials bring to the table.
Right.
Without millennials bringing what they have to offer to the table, then you lose that audience.
Mm-hmm. And then that's when us millennials, you know, we get discouraged in a way. We're like, oh, nothing's going to change. So let me just move around. Because me, I might not voice my opinion. I might just peep game and move around. You know what I mean?
Also, as a millennial, we have to give ourselves to the church as well. Give what we have to offer. True. More of us have to be involved. And I think if more of us were involved, things
maybe different.
You know, we would have more of a voice.
Mm-hmm.
If you only have 1 or 2 against 10 of the older generation, they're going to win every time. Because for one, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to go back and forth about anything.
But at the end of the day, whatever the pastor says goes in that church is what's going to go. So if we don't convince him enough to make a change, then the older generation still wins.
But that's on the pastor at that point. But the pastor has to be able to see through all that. The pastor has to understand that you need the millennials. You need the millennials. And it goes back into far as with the cell phone. Mm-hmm. Millennials do more stuff on their phone. The Bible's on your phone. You pay your offering on the phone.
I just found that out. Like, I'm a little bit more old school, so I'm not used to paying offerings and tithes by the app.
and just think about it. If a millennial came to a church, because I know all churches don't have it, but if you come to a church and like, hey, let's get this app. And you got this little, you got this one church member. We don't need that. Yes, you do. Because I'm not going by the bank before church. And I'm not writing a check either. So you better get this money on this app.
And call it a day.
And be done with it.
So that's what you're going to do. And I'm just like, let me get my dollar and put it in church. Oh, I don't have it today. So, you know what? We're going to double up on our 10% next Sunday.
But, I mean, the older generation just has to be more acceptive of millennials. Be more acceptive of us.
That way, if you guys are working with us, the millennials, it's a global effect, and we can all affect the younger generation who's not even really paying attention anyways.
If we work together, we'll get a better end result.
Hand in hand together we can.
When I go to church, I look for messages that relay back to current events and what's going on in my life right now at that present time.
Okay.
And just the incident. A while back, I had went to a church in Atlanta, and I went to the church, and he relayed his message back to Black Panther, the movie. That caught my attention. I took tons of notes, and I'm really not a note taker in church.
No, you took notes, Jay?
I took notes. I took big girl notes.
I'm proud of you.
And I was excited, and I called, and I was reading everybody my notes. I had missed, I was like, let me give you my little spiritual text messages for the week. Let me send these out. People need to hear this. So it's the content. You want to, when you get the message, like, you want to be able to take it with you. You want to be able to repeat it. Not just the same thing over and over. And I think...
Now I understand you on that. Let me cut you off. I understand you on that because, I follow one Nita Word on Facebook. It has a lot of TD Jakes posts. Mm-hmm. And, I get a lot in that 1 minute to 5 minute clip than I would sitting in a church for 45 minutes to an hour. So I understand the content is really important. And it does go based off of I guess it doesn't go based off, but I guess it's the importance of it is your time and what you're going through in your personal life.
As a millennial, Instagram, we're on Instagram, Facebook. They drop those 1 minute clips on you, and it can take you through the week.
Like, you be like, man, like, that's what I needed.
In that 1 minute, not 45. Now, some messages may take longer than others. I get it. But just deliver something to me in those 30 to 45 minutes.
Okay, but it may be a Sunday, Jay, where that message just isn't for you. Then what you gonna do? I mean,
I feel like even if the message isn't for me, I should still be able to take something out of it.
Okay. So
I still should be able to pick something up and take it with me.
That's what you're saying.
But as millennials, we can't come with an empty bucket either.
Right.
Before we take this topic on home, let's start with the drink. As millennials, we can't go to church with the empty bucket and expect for it to be full.
And you're right. You're right. I feel like, the relationship between the millennials and the pastors is not being transparent. And the pastors may not speak on, certain situations that the millennials deal with in today's society. We're talking about real issues that's going on in our world, in our society. And at the same time, you have different church musics, not every person's going to want to come and sing strictly from the hymn every time.
Sometimes those songs just take me over the edge.
Change it up.
I need something upbeat.
Praise to our God. You know what I'm saying?
I'm tired of that song.
But
every praise is to our God. I'm tired of it.
But you know what? That's upbeat, and that's better than
Turn a 5-minute song into 15.
It does. So I think that they need to be able to relate. They need to, if you want to bring more people into the church homes, go ahead and, change a few things, the dynamics of things. Add a song that you normally wouldn't play.
And I think that kind of goes back into like traditional versus non-traditional church, maybe. Traditional church, you kind of get the same thing every Sunday.
Yeah.
It's okay to change it up. I feel like it's okay to change it up. Non-traditional churches, you come in, you get your 3 songs, your announcements, your message, and it's time to go.
Yeah.
Traditional churches just kind of drag everything out. And sometimes if your hour of power before the sermon, if it's not like upbeat, you sitting there bored.
You bored.
So by the time the sermon come, you tuned out.
And you must select things accordingly that's going to, be with me and my spirit. Our spirits. We have to make sure that everybody's spirits is uplifted within the church. And, you have to have these conversations. Sometimes it's lack of the conversation between the pastor and the millennials. You have to have these conversations with your peoples now to see, where you lack in the church home. You might want to grow, and expand as well.
It may be like the pastors should have like a conversation with each generation. And maybe ask, what can I do differently to get more people in the church? And if they get that input back,
then they need to take it and run with it. Because
yes, and they can tie it back into their
original, traditional
just for people, for them to be able to get more people in the church.
I agree. I completely
So
agree.
it's all about communication. Communication is the key.
Hey, one band, one sound.
Not drumline.
Look, hey, that one stuck with me. One band, one sound, and it's a whole global effect.
But let's pull this together, though.
When we're working with the older generation, and the older generation is working with the millennials, guess who we are all affecting? The younger generation, who right now at this point in time,
they're watching.
They're watching. They're learning. They're learning, trying to get an understanding, trying to see where they belong.
And it takes a village.
It takes a village. And you said a handful. In the name of Jesus we pray.
Amen.